What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we have another regionals report here. This time we have Bodhi, who got second place at San Jose with the Mega Rayquaza Hoopa Shaman deck. Now the whole concept, we actually did an interview before with Xander Bennett, who got top 4 at Arizona, and Bodhi kind of based his list off that. He worked with Xander here to build a new list. I'm not sure what the difference is off the top of my head here, but the whole concept is turn 1 to use Hoopa to grab Shaman, to grab the Rayquazas, the Keldeo, whatever you need here. And then you can use Hex Maniac turn 1 to kind of shut your opponent down so they can't use their Shamans and their Hoopas. And you basically just overwhelm them and win the game pretty easily there. Some cards we talk about is like the Unknown for sure, which is like definitely a card. It's very strange at first because you're like, why does he play one Unknown? But we talk about that, and we talk about the deck overall. So hopefully you enjoyed this interview. Thanks for watching. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today we have another regionals question and answer. And what's your name?
My name is Bodhi Tracy.
Alrighty, and what regionals are we talking about here?
We're talking about the San Jose regionals this past weekend.
Okay, now at the start of the video, we saw your lists and everything, and we talked about the Mega Rayquaza Hoopa Virizion deck. Pretty much what Xander Bennett kind of played like 2 weekends ago. Fairly close here. But let's first start off with what decks did you play against and how they go?
All right, so I think my tournament was a little interesting. I think some people found this funny. Round 1, I played against Sableye Arbiter, and of all things, right?
Yeah.
Ended up losing to that, and yeah,
Starting off hot.
Yeah, in Game 3, I was like, wow, this is the story of my life. I have to play against Sableye Arbiter on the one I lose. But after that, I didn't let it affect me very much. But after that, round 2, I played against Yveltal. 3 was a straight metal deck, not Tyrantrum. And then round 4 was actually another one of those. It was another straight metal deck, which is kind of odd. I didn't really expect any of those, but I don't know. All 3 of those matches were really easy. Kind of just did what the deck does, set up, and they have no answers. I think round 4 was actually, I played against Mark Garcia, or Garg, whichever one, whatever you want to call him.
In the interview, he's like, "Don't stop calling me Gark," and I was like, "No. You change your Facebook name to Mark, and we'll be okay."
Yeah, I played against him. That was day 1. I think it was round 5, and it was pretty easy actually. I think he just didn't get anything set up, and that's when the deck like goes, and then he doesn't get Manectric, or I killed the Manectric before it has 2 energy. It kind of just steamroll him, and that's what happened. And then round 6, I played against Simon Road, and he was playing Yveltal. This is this is a set. So game 1, he opens Darkrai, and I open like I think Virizion or something. And after I play my turn, instead of playing Hex Maniac, I played Getsus, and I hit 5 cards out of his hand, and the other 2 cards in his hand are 2 Darkness Energy. So after I pass my turn, he draws his card for turn, and he's like, He like sits on his hand for a minute. And I was like, Simon, I know you have like just 2 energy. And he attaches a Dark and just tells me, he's like, if you don't have a way to retreat, then I don't lose this turn, but I do and I win. And he shows me, he just top deck another Dark energy. So that was game 1. And then game 2 was also really silly. I prized 3 Shamans. So I couldn't get any kind of setup. Yeah, that was kind of how I felt. I was like, wow, is this really how it goes? But I didn't really get set up. I like just got nothing at one point, because when you prize multiple Shamans with the deck, that's what happens. You can't get anywhere. So he actually won that game with a Yveltal with like 3 DCs on it, I think. And then game 3, he opens Lone Absol, and on my turn, I play Hex Maniac at the end of my turn, and then he draws, and he just lays his hand down on the table, and it's 3 Darkness Energy, 2 Via Seeker, and 2 Burbank, and I was like, wow. I'm like pretty good friends with Simon, and so it was really unfortunate that had to happen. Although it's a very favorable matchup for the deck, Yveltal is, it's still unfortunate that had to happen that way.
Yeah, like you won a game because his bad setup, or no, that's actually just a good play by you. game 2 you lose because your bad setup, and game 3 he loses because his bad setup, which is kind of
Yeah,
really strange. Like in 3 games, like we have best of 3, so this doesn't happen, and it still happens.
it still happened. Yeah, that was the only time that happened during the tournament. So um, let's see. After that, oh, I skipped around actually. I played before Simon. I think it was 2 rounds before I played against Eduardo. He was the guy who like top aided Nats last year with Hip Out on.
Yeah.
He was playing fighting Manectric, and that was like easy. Like I just knock out Manectrics and he can't do anything. But then so after Simon, I played against this is round 8 now, and we had 9 rounds on day 1 and 5 on day 2. And so I play against someone, I can't remember his name. Sorry about that. He was playing Yveltal Archeops, and I just like swept the floor. That's exactly what's supposed to happen. So at this point, I'm 7-1, and so I know I'm locked for day 2, even if I lose. And then the ninth round, I matched up against Chris Collins, and he was the only person I actually play tested with the night before. And I did zero play testing with my deck the day before. It was all testing for him, and he was playing Manectric Tool Drop most of the time.
Yeah.
And then last minute, the morning of the event, he decided to switch to Don Fan. And he was 7-0 up until that last round, and he lost to Justin Poyce at table 1. But I guess the Don Fan switch worked out for him really well. But in the last round, he couldn't decide if he wanted to ID or play it out, and because we had never played the matchup before, neither of us had. We weren't really sure how it went, and we ended up IDing. And I was 5th seed going into day 2, and he was 4th, I believe. So day 2, round 1, I actually have to play Chris Collins again. So we do end up having to play, and he kind of in game 1. He wins game 1 because he knows we kind of theoried it a bit, like while we were waiting to ID, and then for the rest of the time that Hawlucha Focus Sash is the way to go. Because Donphan, like with Jolteon, if he goes the Donphan route, if I ever just Hex Maniac, Donphan hits me for nothing, and I could just kill Jolteon also, and it hits me for nothing. But that happens game 1. Game 2, I'm like a little scared at this point. I'm like, oh, I'll take my first loss other than Sableye Arbiter.
Yeah.
And game 2, he just kind of junipers and then draws nothing. So I win like turn 3 or something. And then game 3 was a little closer. He kind of went the same route, but he had to discard a lot more resources, and so I ended up winning anyway. Man, after that, I played against Justin Poyce. I was a little scared because it's another Don fan, and I was still shaky on the matchup. I was still wasn't totally confident in it. But that one was much easier, actually. I think he drew pretty poorly game 1. Game 2, he opened Wobbuffet, which was a little scary, but people seem to think that when you open Wobbuffet, you can kind of just win against Rayquaza, but you can still use Hoopa under Wobbuffet, and so what I decided, came to the conclusion of is if they open Wobbuffet, I'll just Hoopa for Rayquaza and Mega Rayquaza and just evolve. After playing some cards in the first turn, because then on the next turn you can just knock out the Wobbuffet, and then you can use all your other abilities. But so I went against him, and then round 3 of day 2, I play against Marshall Carey, who's playing Blastoise, and that's another really easy matchup for Rayquaza. They have really no answer. They can both times I played against Marshall, all of the games, he had one turn where he just loaded up a Keldeo with 9 energy and one-shot my Mega Rayquaza. But then if I just knock out that, he has no options, and that's exactly what happened every time. So round 4 of day 2, I play against Joe Sanchez, and he's playing Groudon. I also was not sure about this matchup, and he game 1 he opens Groudon, so I knew he played Wobbuffet and stuff, but he opens Groudon game 1, and he gets basically nothing up until the very end, and this is exactly what happens with Groudon. He just kind of gets, it looks like I'm in a commanding position, and then right at the end he gets Focus Sash Groudon with 3 strongs on it, so he one-shots my Mega Rayquaza. I go for a Sky Return to break the Focus Sash, and he Pokemon Centers ladies, and so I can't do anything. I'm like, oh, I can Sky Return again, but then he just knocks out another EX. I was Sky Returning into Execute, so he would only take 1 prize, but he had Lysander twice. He Pokemon Center lady the first time, and then I Sky Return again, he Lysanders my other Mega Rayquaza, and I don't have another one, and then he wins. And virtually the same thing happened in game two, except for he didn't have a center lady. He just he knocked out my stadium, and I couldn't draw another one. So I couldn't one shot the Groudon, and I lost. But I still knew at this point, at 10, 2, and 1, I was locked for top 8. And so in my last round, I would have played against Dallin, who was also playing Groudon, but we ID'd. So we ID'd in the cut after 14 freaking rounds.
It's so long, yeah.
Yeah, it's super long. And so I felt really comfortable. I ended up being first seed with 32 points, and everybody else was below me, didn't have that many points. And in top 8, I played against Justin Poist again. And virtually the same thing that happened in our day 2 matches happened in top 8. That, like, not a lot happened. I ended up just winning on resources. I actually used the normal Rayquaza EX's second attack, Dragon Pulse, the one where you discard 3 cards off the top of your deck. That's how I won in our game 2. Is I had Sky Return to Donphan earlier in the game, or a Phanpy when it had Focus Sash, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to break this eventually, and I used Sky Return on it. And at the very end, I Lysandered his Donphan and hit it for 100 with Dragon Pulse. And then top 4 against Marshall, Blastoise again. It is it's kind of the same thing. Just kind of ran through him. At this point, I'm like, oof. So one more match, and I wasn't sure who I was going to be playing against. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Oscar or Mark, and ended up being Mark. And I thought that was kind of funny because he made all the way back there, which was really impressive. Like all the way to the finals. After I think he like barely squeaked into day 2. I think he was like 20-something seed. And both games, my deck just kind of pooped out at that point. Like it had played so many games, and eventually you're gonna have to draw bad. And both games I prized 2 Shamans, and so I just can't get set up. And both games, like turn 2, he had Manectric with 2 energy, just killed my Mega Rayquaza both times, and that's kind of just how it goes. Manectric's the only answer, and if he doesn't get it, I win. But he got it, so he wins.
But still, like, getting to the finals is amazing. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
It would have been cooler, I guess, if your deck would have, I guess, fizzled out at a different part, and then at the finals it kicked back in or something. That would have been.
Yeah. Like maybe against Blastoise in the previous top 4.
Yeah, exactly. But still, oh well. I mean, you still got the 2-round buys and everything, so we'll take those.
Yeah, very happy about that.
Okay. I guess the very first question is, why did you decide to play the Mega Rayquaza deck? Because there's only been one other person who had success with it, which is Xander, and I don't think anybody else has made cut with it. So you're the second person to make cut with it. So
Yeah.
why did you decide to play it?
So I had, I think, fairly minimal testing going into this event. I had a lot more testing going to Arizona, and I had played a Seismitoad Genesect at that event, and the same list that Hayden played. Nathan and I had made that deck, and then we gave it to Hayden. He had success this weekend with it. But I decided to play Rayquaza because it looked like the metagame was lining up for it. Vespiquen was a pretty even matchup. I tested that a little bit. That was because I was a little scared about that. But when you Hex Maniac on the first or second turn and they don't use all their unknowns and Shamans, they get nowhere. And then also they can't hit you for weakness with Jolteon, so they can never do enough to one-shot you. They have to do that really late game. And so you can win the prize trade by then. I actually ended up playing against no Vespiquen, which was... It would have been a lot more stressful if I had.
Yeah, true.
But I decided because Seismitoad Giratina and Night March were the hardest matchups for the deck. I expected virtually no Night March, which was true. There was 2 in day 2, I think. It was actually Kenny and Christy Britton. But they lost their first 2 rounds in day 2, so I dodged them. And then Seismitoad Giratina, I expected to be very lowly represented, only by good players who expected the metagame to line up for it, which is exactly what happened. I didn't end up playing against any of those either. But that matchup I thought was actually a lot worse than it actually is. It's probably 60-40 in Seismitoad Giratina's favor. But that matchup is really scary, but I didn't expect that to be well represented either. So it looked like the metagame was really strong for it. And when you get an early lead with the deck, you kind of just run away with the game.
Okay, that's true. Now, I guess we're going to talk about your deck some. And I guess the very, very first question is, we saw that you played the 1 unknown. Like, not 2, not 3, not 4. Usually you see unknown. There's like 3 or 4, but you just played the 1. Why was that?
So, unknown is a very, very good card in the deck. That's the only card I would want to bump to, like the only one of the only card changes I would want to make. Um, at worst, you can bench it and do more damage with Rayquaza, but at best, it can get net you another card. And there was definitely a couple times during the weekend where it was that one card I needed, and it ended up being like the Sky Field or the double colorless that I needed off the unknown. The reason I played it is one of the main reasons, or one of the main cards I was scared like to play against with the deck is Getsus, and I knew that would pick up in popularity because that can totally wreck you if they get it turn one. They shuffle away all your Ultra Balls, your Trainer's Mills, and stuff, and you can get nowhere. But if you have Unknown in your hand, or you open with it, you can bench it, and then if they Getsus you, you can still use Unknown to see another card to try to get back in the game after a big Getsus.
Okay. All right. Now, I know some people also think it's kind of crazy that this deck doesn't play any Juniper / Sycamores. What was the reason behind that?
So this is like the same exact idea that came from Xander's deck, is that actually in my testing, I played a couple of games with like 2 Sycamore, or Juniper. I don't play Sycamore. But it actually lowers the consistency of the deck because you want to be shamaning for as many cards as possible most of the time. And so using Juniper or Sycamore is not going to get you in that same position that you want to be, where you want to set up your hands and also use your field. Discarding resources is really big, and so you never want to do that. And also a lot of the time you want to be using Hex Maniac turn 1, because that's kind of the game plan of the deck, is to overwhelm your opponent really quickly, like put on so much pressure and then your opponent can't respond because they're under Hex Maniac. That's the goal of the deck.
Okay. All right. Now, you did play, like, I guess, the Hex Maniac, and you played the Getsus and the Colors at the end. What was your favorite supporter over the weekend?
Oh, definitely Getsus. Oh, man. It's like, not only the game against Simon where it destroyed him, in my top 4, actually, I guess I didn't mention it, game 1, I Getsus'd him. When he opened Lone Execute, and I Getsus'd him, and he only had 2 waters in his hand, and I was like, oh, is this gonna be the game here? But he top decked Jirachi to stay in the game. I ended up winning that game anyway, but Getsus by far was the best supporter.
Okay, all right. Now, besides the second unknown, is there any other cards you wish that the deck had, or is that the only thing you wish you had?
I think unknown was probably the only thing that I wish I had. I think now going into the future, if we're gonna keep playing the deck, that some people might be playing Parallel City, which makes it limits you to only be able to have 3 bench Pokemon. And so maybe playing 2 Sacred Ash, or a Sacred Ash and a Super Rod. That might be a change that I make.
Okay, all right. Now, talking about the future sets, like you just talked about Parallel City for Breakthrough, if your cities are expanded, are you going to stick with the deck, or you think there's something else in Breakthrough that's piquing your interest?
Yeah, all the cities in my region, all the cities in Oregon are going to be expanded, and so I'm definitely going to be playing Rayquaza for some of those. I'm not really scared of Parallel City because there's not a lot of decks that would want to play it over other stadiums, and even if they do, it's not really a big deal. Sacred Ash is amazing. Like, you just get around it.
Yeah, that's very true. Alrighty, well, do you know how many championship points you're at right now?
It looks like 162. I'm having problems with my pop ID right now, but I'm figuring that out.
Okay, so 162. If it's 300 again, 138 left to go. Past years, how well have you done at cities?
At cities last year, my best finish limit was actually 4 top 4s. I just couldn't get through to finals. Cities, I feel like I do pretty well. This is a lot more championship points than I had last season. I missed the first regional season last year, so I definitely much better to start this season.
Okay, all right. So hopefully this come around cities, you get those 160, 170 points, and you get your invite. If it is 300 points, we still don't know yet, which is kind of weird. Pokemon's holding out on us, but whatever.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to give any shout outs to anybody?
Definitely shout-outs to Nathan Beck, who's one of my main testing partners. Shout-outs to Team C, being very stupid. Yeah, that's about it. Shout-out to, I guess, all of Oregon, even our world champion. All of us, all my friends I play with. It's great.
You tell your world champion to step up here. He's been underperforming at every event here. What's he doing?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, he got day 2 at Arizona. good.
Oh
But
yeah, he did. Yeah. Still, I mean,
that was it though.
yeah, that's it. What's he doing? He needs to step up. Oh, well, it's okay. He's already got his invite, but oh well. But thank you so much for this interview. Once again, congrats on getting second place, getting those two buys at nationals. Always very cool. Just knowing like what you only play like 7 rounds now instead of 9 day one. So there
Yeah.
you go. You can go back to sleep like some people do.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, man. Once again, thank you for doing the interview. Thanks for everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something new about the Mega Rayquaza deck. Alrighty, bye.
Yeah. Bye.